Hey, Seekers, and welcome back. I'm your host, Julienne Irons, and today's conversation feels really personal for me. Because if you've ever found yourself doing well in so many areas of your life, your career, your friendships, your growth, but love still feels confusing, inconsistent, or just out of reach, this episode is going to hit you just as hard as it hit me. In this conversation with Sridaya Srivatsan, we explore what aligned love actually looks like, not performing or proving, but feeling safe, grounded, and fully yourself. We talk about why so many high-achieving women feel stuck in love, how overfunctioning shows up in relationships, and why the real shift happens when we move out of our heads and back into our bodies. Seekers, this conversation is deep, it's honest, and it's incredibly expansive. This is Perspective Shifts for Healing with the Hanged Woman, where perspective is power. Let's get into it. So let me guess. You're running a business, showing up, doing all the things, and still second-guessing your next move. That's usually not a sign you need more effort. It's a sign you need clarity. At Three of Cups Healing, we offer energy and intuitive-based marketing strategy for your small business. We combine tarot insight, competitive research, and real-world strategy to help you understand what makes you stand out, how to communicate it clearly, and what your next move should actually be. So, Seeker, if you're ready to stop second-guessing and start moving with intention, book a free consultation at threeofcupshealing.com. Your vision, your magic. Let's make it real. Together. That's threeofcupshealing.com. All right, let's get into the episode. Sridaya, oh my God. Girl, I am so excited to have you on our show because you and I have been friends via To Be Magnetic for a very long time. And you have been such a powerful force in my life for so many different reasons. I'm just so excited to have this conversation with you and just knowing how much it's going to help people and help women. Before we begin, for listeners that don't know how amazing you are, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to the work that you do?
Absolutely. For background, South Asian family moved to Canada when I was 6 years old. So I am a third culture kid for context, raised in a Hindu household, and that's like the background you need to know for where the story begins. I actually started in a very structured analytical world working in government policy because that's what my studies led me to. But my personal life held a very difficult story, and I think everything looked correct on paper, but in love, I kept experiencing just the most dramatic stories imaginable. And I kept experiencing emotional inconsistency and confusion and just unhappiness. And that contrast made me realize that something needed a change. My spiritual awakening started in December 2019 when my cat chose me, my black cat Bagheera. He's a huge part of my story because he is my familiar. And that same weekend that he chose me, my dad was going to an astrologer and he told him that his daughter is continuing a spiritual lineage that started on his side. And I was like, that's weird. What? All this stuff happening the same weekend. A bunch of crazy, inexplicable things then proceeded to happen in the coming months, including an Indigenous elder kind of pointing me out in one of our prayers. Because in the Government of Canada, we do work in reconciliation with Indigenous peoples of Canada. I was at an event and they pulled me out, and then I had a one-on-one, and he handed me an eagle feather, which is very sacred. That's not just given out, but he knew because I had an eagle ring on at that time what an important um, symbol it was for me. And just a bunch of things happened. I fell into TBM work as well, which is how you and I met. And eventually, as I was exploring all the healing modalities like Reiki and subconscious work, just to understand why, like what's happening and working through everything, what I learned is myself, like many other high achieving women, we're all experiencing the same thing and didn't really have the language for it, where we all have maybe everything's going so well on paper and we are so good at telling these stories to everybody around us. And actually, we have this hidden pain. And so, of course, I went through the healing. I went through some radical changes in my life. I listened to intuitive hits to leave the city I was living in, move back in with my parents, which to some people looks like going backwards, but for me was a symbol of how much healing I had done with my family to get us to that point. And then I met the love of my life, Abhay, at a wedding in the most magical way that I had detached from what like I had finally detached from truly wanting that very specific meet cute story, and that's literally when that amazing meet cute story happened. So yeah, now my work sits at the intersection of nervous system healing, cultural context, and self-trust. So I help women who are already self-aware refine that last missing piece so love actually feels like home.
I've been single for 15 years and I'm finally feeling that desire to be back in partnership with someone and have that like meet cute story and like be in love again.
Mhm.
And so I feel like this conversation is going to be super healing for myself as well as the collective. Shri, you talk about the concept of aligned love. What does that actually mean to you?
It's the love that allows you to fulfill the purpose your soul came to earth for.
Mm.
That is the ultra abstract answer. Basically, it's the love where you're not performing, you don't have to prove anything, and you're not managing the connection all the time. Not just about shared values, it's about the shared capacity for emotional intimacy.
A lot of the women that you work with are very high achieving, they're deeply self aware, and yet they, like me, feel very stuck in love. Why do you think that happens?
It's a great question. I think they're just optimized for the very things that don't really help you in love, right? You're optimized to prove, you're optimized to earn that appreciation. You've optimized for success in environments where overfunctioning is rewarded. But that pattern creates imbalance and women entering relationships already doing all of the managing and the work and all of that. It's just how they're wired because they're actually afraid to dig one level deeper, which is they're afraid that if I actually sat back and didn't over carry all of this weight to make this go forward, I won't be chosen. So they're going to create dynamics where giving more than receiving becomes normal. And a lot of common personal development advice and self-help doesn't necessarily account for cultural conditioning. And so when you add the layer of, like, for example, being racialized like you and me, you add that layer on top of all of this high achieving stuff that's already there, it gets more entrenched into this idea of identity, and that gets fixed and it doesn't necessarily lend itself well to be met as an equal in love. You're doing the work, but not the right layer of work.
What is the right layer of work?
I think it's digging deeper than the first layer of, oh yeah, like I'm in this personal development world. Like, like how a lot of the lingo, a lot of the self-help, it keeps you at finding ways to manage relationships, but the deeper work lies in handling your own relationship with disappointment, your own relationship with being able to sit in the discomfort and actually realizing it's not worth it to be afraid of that pain just to be with someone who can't meet you. But that pain feels way too big. And that's why this cycle of almost relationships and not being met happens. That's the deeper level. It's shadow work.
So, how do cultural expectations and family programming shape the way that many women approach relationships?
Yeah, so I can speak to being South Asian myself. There's a lot of pressure in our culture to get married. And I feel like there's one more thing I need to share on that because everybody kind of knows that now, kind of in North America. Like
Yeah.
mainstream culture knows that stereotype. But the reason for that pressure is so that your parents can finally relax and feel that they have fulfilled their parental duty. Because that's what the real cultural expectation is. So you then, if you are someone who wants to make your parents proud and have them be received in society in a certain way, in their community in a certain way, you then start seeing love as something to just get right, just get a check mark going, and not necessarily something to experience safely and to even investigate what safety looks like for you as an individual. Like, that's not even on the radar. So, that's how that kind of cultural expectation shapes the way that many brown women like myself approach relationships. So this is where a lot of learning to accommodate others instead of discerning whether you actually like them or not happens. This is where a lot of, people talk about self-abandonment. I'm like, this is self-betrayal, essentially, that we learn as necessary because we want to make our parents proud. And also, I just wanted to say it's totally understandable that that's the pressure that parents put because that's all they know is that their job is to get their kids married off. But the deeper question I would say that I wish and I am praying for a new generation of, at least in my community, South Asian parents that focus more on have I passed on generational emotional intelligence here, right? The kind that can keep changing generations and not just, oh, my duty has to be fulfilled. Like that's what I hope for this generation and that's my underlying drive in the work that I do, which is that I think we can create a way better world if we have more emotionally intelligent and regulated children that grow up to being the adults that make the decisions in this world.
Yeah. And I think for so many of us, our parents were just surviving and they didn't have the tools that we now have in order to become emotionally intelligent.
Hmm.
Or like you said, just going off of what they learned from their parents who also didn't have the tools and were just surviving. And so I have a lot of gratitude for my parents and how they were able to bring me to this point from the way that they taught me. Even doing the opposite. Like my mom growing up, it was all about I don't care what nationality or what color or what race your future husband is, but he has to be Christian. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
taking that and being like, but why? Like questioning it. So like her
Hmm.
belief system and how she raised me gave me the strength and the wisdom to be like, why? Like to question it. And now I have the tools to help me like figure that out. You know what I mean?
I'm glad that your soul led you to pursue that curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Your question was the family programming, right? And so religion is something that does create that family programming. That's actually prevalent across all families around the world, I would say, right? There's like the
Yeah.
value systems that are shared and the expectation of what the kid's future partner has to be like. That puts more parameters on to how a woman would approach relationships then.
So, what are some of the messages? Like, I just shared one
Hmm.
about Christianity and my future husband having to be Christian.
Hmm.
But what are some other messages that we as women internalize growing up that later influence who we choose as partners.
You have to be a good girl. Be a good girl now. And then that turns to, oh, like I have to be a certain way to receive love from my primary caregiver. And then that turns into, I just have to be this way to receive love, which is basically a recipe to disconnect from what you actually want, what you desire to do in your body. It creates a lot of confusion. So I would say that is a huge one. And this idea of compromise is really pushed, I think, especially in maybe a bit more traditional marriages. Like I saw growing up a more traditional type of dynamic where at first it seemed like, like my father was more of the leader and like my mother was, but then life made them kind of intersperse and switch roles. But what I actually saw was most of the arguments would just be my mom like letting things go or letting her own needs not be seen and met and her perspective be overridden. And that became my normal until I had to do the work to undo that. That they call, oh, marriage is compromise. But like the word compromise is taken on like a weird meaning. Marriages require communication and meeting in the middle. That's not the same thing as reducing your needs for the sake of the marriage. Maybe at moments, maybe there are months in your life together where you're like, I cannot meet that need this month. I have crazy things going on at work. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's sometimes that's like a temporary thing, but ideally you're not reducing what you actually need just to be loved.
Yeah, what comes up for me is like the perfection thing. So you said good girl, and automatically I was like, I have to be the perfect good girl. That I think has actually been holding me back from finding a partner because I'm not perfect in my life right now. I'm very flawed, but when have I
Mm,
ever been perfect? I don't even know. That's a part of the programming that I'm working on dismantling is like, I don't have to be perfect to be in love. I don't have to be this perfect
mm.
good girl.
Love, long-term love, is about loving imperfect people
Yeah.
perfectly.
Mm.
Everyone is imperfect, and every single person listening right now is so deserving of being met in love. Everyone deserves to be loved no matter what is happening in other parts of their life. You deserve to be loved and respected. That's always been the case.
Stop making me cry. So, Sri, many women listening to this show have built incredible careers and lives. Why can love sometimes feel harder for women who are otherwise thriving?
I think it's the theory of relativity because when everything is going really, really well, but there's one thing that makes you uncomfortable and unhappy, it's a thorn in your side. And because everything is relative, that last piece of discomfort feels doubly frustrating, right? Because it's like, everything is relative. So if everything is going really, really, really well, you've been kicking ass in your job, you've been getting promotions, maybe your friendships are thriving, your social life feels so lush and full. And then there's just this thing that happens right before you turn off the lights at night as you get to bed, where you're like, man, I really wish I could have just had someone, a romantic partner next to me to share that amazing day with. And that's the thought that makes you cry when you're alone. And then that's finally when it hits, right in those moments. That's why it feels so doubly frustrating. For the women with incredible careers, it's typically their identity is built around being capable, self-sufficient. Those things get rewarded a lot in professional lives. But relationships are actually about receiving and not just doing. But if you're used to control and predictability, which you can have as long as you're doing, but not sitting back and waiting to see how someone gives to you so you may receive. Control and predictability, love doesn't always offer that, or the pursuit of love. And all control in life, period, and not just in love and like everything in life, it's an illusion, right? That most of the things in our lives are out of our control. And so we can only control the things that are within our sphere. When it comes to love and uncertainty shows up, it can feel really destabilizing and also create a little bit of erosion of self-trust.
Yeah, that really resonates because I'm afraid that if I find a partner, he's gonna break my heart or die.
Mhm.
And I'm also afraid that if he's gonna break my heart or die, that means that I wasn't like worthy enough to have a partner that didn't break my heart. I also can't be trusted to choose the right partner.
Do you know what I would say to you if you were my client in a session right now? Is that a helpful narrative for you to receive the manifestation you want?
Oh, absolutely not.
But it's also just so relatable,
Yeah, I
right?
feel like a lot of people feel that way. It's terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But everything is not necessarily a reflection of your worthiness. You determine your self-worth. But at the same time, like what you shared is such a familiar feeling. Of course, I've felt that way. Of course, many of my clients have felt that way. Many people listening are probably feeling that way. But you've always been worthy, and there's just things that are uncontrollable. Of course, like I love my partner so much, and I do cry sometimes when I see a TV show and like somebody's loved one passes away, like their partner, because I know that that is the worst thing, and I pray and I'm knocking on wood right now that that doesn't happen for a very, 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 very long time. That those are also just parts
Mm.
of life. And what happens outside of that, outside of me, doesn't necessarily have to reflect how I feel about myself. And one more thing that I wanted to share that happens a lot for these high achieving women that find love hard is they're approaching dating from logic and not embodying the receiving love energy. So it's like a lot of evaluating compatibility and what are these boxes? Are they being ticked or not? And they keep thinking they can put new logic frameworks on dating, but they're not actually checking how they feel in their bodies because they've been rewarded for being in their brains the whole time. So, how do you actually feel is a question that will draw a blank for such people. Like, what do you mean? Like, and I was like, no, no, like literally, what are the sensations in your body? Is there something in your stomach? Is there something in your chest? And then people be like, frustration. No, frustration's not a feeling. It's a word that your brain came up with. What's the literal sensation in your body? And that usually helps. And that's so much of the work that I do with these kinds of high achieving women is a lot of getting back into the body. Because once we do that and we get so comfortable detailing the sensations, it starts becoming a language that we start decoding. And then we can trust what our body is telling us. And I remember that was the number one thing that my own somatic therapist taught me when I was freaking out after meeting the love of my life, because what if this is also just one other cruel trick from the universe?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Mhm.
I felt that. Yes. Yes.
And that was when I met the love of my life, right? It was still so triggering for me, considering I literally had diagnosed PTSD from intimacy and romantic relationships. I was having a panic attack realizing I had feelings for this person, and that he probably very openly was having feelings for me too. That was terrifying because what if this is another cruel trick from the universe? Of course, that thought crossed my mind. And what my somatic therapist reminded me is that we'd been doing this work of creating language between my body and me so I could trust what felt good, what felt safe, what felt like, what are those sensations in the body that tell me that? And she told me that I could trust my body. And I was like, whoa. wait, that's right. I can trust my body. And that's why I do the that's why I do this for other women because that was such a life-changing moment for me.
I can trust my body.
Hmm.
So, what patterns do you see high achieving women fall into when it comes to dating?
I have a term for this in my side of the universe. I call it the Mr. Almost Right. So this is the consistent meeting people where it's like it's almost right, but there's just one thing. Sometimes we call it the shiny carrot test, right? But the Mr. Almost Right actually is proof that you are very close if you know where to look correctly. Like if you're able to figure out what is the pattern, then that will be the answer to what your next step is, and your soulmate's around the corner for sure. But it's that if you stay in the frustration of almost right, you'll never get to that step, or it'll take many years to get to that step.
What are some examples of the patterns so that we know what we can look out for?
The truth is, it's very individual for different people. So the last like 3 to 5 people that I either went on a date with or had a crush on, they were all people who had good careers, they knew what they were doing, and they weren't emotionally available. Or if they were emotionally available, had okay careers, they weren't actually someone that I felt physical attraction for, and I was too scared to admit
Mm.
that because I'd finally received the emotional availability. It's a 2 out of 3 situation. But you deserve 3 on 3. You deserve to have the things you're looking for in a person, the most important things. What started happening is I had to figure out, okay, why. I'm using my own story because obviously then, there's no privacy concerns. Um, in my own story, the work that I ended up doing was to actually reassure myself that I, in fact, deserve to be with a man that finds me attractive as much as I find them attractive. And I had to do some hypnotic work on that to really go and rewire those insecurities. And guess where they were from in my life? Puberty,
Yeah. Mm.
right? It was that long ago. But this idea of there's no way, like I should just settle for this because there's no way that somebody that I'm actually attracted to would ever find me attractive.
That's literally how I feel.
That's a block. That is a block. Then it's totally rewirable.
Ah, that gives me hope.
Yeah, there is. It is literally around the corner if you want it to be. I always tell people that if you have always known deep down, ever since you were a little girl, because sometimes the answer is different for people. For some people, they realize that no, actually, this desire is not mine. It's what society, what my mom told me I wanted. I actually have a different. That's cool. Good. Good on you for figuring that out. But if you are the girl who is the princess in every like imaginary like tea party and waiting, and you loved the idea of Prince Charming. Cinderella was my favorite movie growing up. Like, if you are that person where at your core you have felt this, yeah, actually, like, I desire to be really loved fully and in a situation where it's so safe for me to love fully. If you've always known that that is something you want, that absolutely exists for you. It absolutely does. You just have to decide it exists for you, which sounds so simple. Recently, I posted this thing on Threads that went viral, and I'm going to say it again here. But the day that you decide to send love back to your inner child is the same day that your future self sends you assists in the present. First of all, time symmetry is real, and that's one of the theories posited by quantum physics. So that means like we think about it as this linear thing moving like maybe left to right. We think, okay, past, the center is present, and the right side is the future. But actually, they're stacked all like this, and they're all happening at the same time. We just can't perceive it because humans are limited in our capacity and we can only perceive things as time is linear. So time symmetry is real. That means the future, the present, the past exist at the same time. And so it stands to gain that the day you start this habit of sending love backwards is the day that you build this habit that inevitably your future self is now practicing. And thus, the future self that has the love of their life is helping you in this moment, sending you pings, sending you little nudges so that you do the things that are necessary for her to live her best life.
Yeah. Because like going back to like the control thing, it's like, oh, I have way more control over this situation than I thought. Because I can just empower myself.
You are so powerful. You have so much agency. You are sovereign, actually.
There's a whole lot of self-worth and dignity in that. And like empowering myself, empowering my inner child, my younger self. And that I just see the beautiful connection between my younger self, me, and my future self, just all this trinity of power to create this love that I know I do deserve.
You said Trinity, and it reminded me of Mother, Maiden, Crone. We are all three at once.
Mm,
That's insane.
yeah. We are all three at
Mhm.
once. That is so true. So now this is making me just like really think about my body and how my body
Mhm.
feels. And so we talked about like the body a little bit, but you also talk about the importance of nervous system safety in relationships, right?
Mhm.
So what role does the nervous system play in who we are attracted to?
Your nervous system determines what feels familiar, but that doesn't necessarily mean it knows what's healthy and safe. If you are used to having a strained relationship with your mother as a child, for example, your mother was always too busy to give you the attention you needed. I'm giving my own lived life experience, right? And I just want to like state a disclaimer that my mother is my best friend today, something that felt impossible as a child. I just wanted to say that my reality today is different because she also moved towards healing. I found it most comfortable to be with men or women that were very preoccupied in their careers because my mom was very preoccupied in her career when I was younger. And she obviously definitely tried to create a lot of space for me, but only cared academically. So that meant I only valued myself for my intellectual pursuits, not just my presence. Ooh, that hurts to say out loud. And that was a sad thing that I learned in that situation. But that meant that when I looked suddenly and I was like, oh, like what's the pattern between like all these guys? It was that they had no time. They were all like political staffers on the Hill in Ottawa. Like that was the type of person I loved that they were doing these cool things, but were they actually available? Could they actually be there when I'm like having a bad day? No. But it was once I healed, funnily enough, and I normalized the healed relationship with my mom. The person I'm married to reflects all of her best qualities. They are so similar in the best ways possible, in the silly ways that make my heart so warm. So, yeah, your relationship with your caregivers do determine a lot of what is possible for you, but your caregiver is not completely perfect, nor are they completely flawed. There's something in the middle. So the best parts of my mom are in my partner. They both have to be punctual to everything. They both are early risers and will have you know it. They're they're it's very funny. Their preferences, the way they think, it's so hilarious to me and beautiful. So that is what I mean when I say like habituating your nervous system. It also requires doing that work to change what feels familiar. And yes, in my case, it might be different for you because not everyone's parents are able to meet you in the middle. And I totally get that. But finding other ways through friendship to teach your nervous system that asking for help and receiving it is normal, to know that your presence is enough. because your friends like being around you, even if you're doing nothing.
So true.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the things that we can do as preparation to receive the love of our soul-aligned partner. And this is like why many people tend to be attracting things that mirror past emotional experiences. And there's also a path to get out of that. And that's the message that I love repeating for people because you actually don't have to be on this Ferris wheel. You don't have to be on this revolving door of almost situations. You can actually get yourself out. In fact, you are meant to. Dare I say, if you're listening to this, you are meant to because you were called to listen to this. So your future self already wants this for you.
Mm, I love that so much. Okay, Seekers, I think this is a really great place to take a break. We'll be right back with the episode. Grief doesn't move in a straight line, and it doesn't come with a clear path forward either. Seekers, if you've experienced loss, whether it's a loved one, a pet, miscarriage, or another life transition, Healing After Loss was created to support you through it in a real and grounded way. Led by trauma-informed intuitive energy healer Julienne Irons, this self-paced course gives you space to process your emotions, understand what you're moving through, and find your own path forward with tools, reflection, and optional life support along the way. And because you're listening to The Hanged Woman, you can receive 10% off with code The Hanged Woman. Remember joy again and learn more at threeofcupshealing.com/HAL course. That's threeofcupshealing.com/HAL course. And the code for 10% off is The Hanged Woman. Hey, Seeker. So if your marketing feels unclear or inconsistent, it's usually not because you're doing it wrong. It's because it's not fully aligned yet. At Three of Cups Healing, we use energy and intuitive-based marketing strategy to help you get clear on your messaging, your audience, and how to show up in a way that actually works for you. That means less second-guessing, more direction, and a business that feels like it fits. So, Seeker, if you're ready to stop second-guessing and start moving with intention, book a free consultation at threeofcupshealing.com. Your vision, your magic. Let's make it real. Together. That's threeofcupshealing.com. All right, let's keep the perspective shift going. Want
Mm.
this, like I really do. How can we tell the difference between real compatibility and that intense chemistry that often comes from anxious or trauma based patterns?
Unfortunately, the answer is nebulous. The answer is that language you develop with your own body, that will tell you.
Mm,
Because you start understanding as you're habituating yourself, exposing your nervous system to safe, healthy friendships, supporting that. And you're teaching yourself that somatic language that your body is having with you. You realize that being with this person almost feels the same as when you're chilling by yourself and having a great day on your own.
mhm.
Because again, if you've managed to create safety within yourself, of course, if a great day on your own and you still haven't done this somatic awareness work, it can be harder to discern what that feeling of safety is. But if you've been doing that work and really connecting with your body, you begin realizing that the person in front of you is actually feeling very comfortable and safe for you to just be you and not perform this perfection or this way of being, this like, you're not putting on any performance when you are with the person who is safe for you.
Yeah.
Chemistry feels urgent, right? And it feels, and just chemistry alone, I mean, without compatibility, it just feels really urgent and it feels like, oh no, like, I don't know, does this person like me back? Like those questions come up more and more. Compatibility feels steady and calm. And I think the thing is, people are afraid that fireworks is what feels good for them. And fireworks are amazing. And I'm not, and I still experience some fireworks that are like super passionate with my loving partner. And also the peace and calm that is there the majority of the time is actually not boring at all. It feels great. It feels like anything is possible when we're together. We can do anything we want together. We can achieve whatever dreams we both have. That feeling is there because we're a team, and it feels like that because being, again, back to that whole being with him feels like me having an amazing day on my own anyway.
With the idea of it being a safe space, it reminds me of that feeling of being home.
Which is
Of,
ding, ding, ding.
yeah, yeah. Everything you just said, I was like, oh yeah, it feels like if being home was a comfortable, safe place to be, that's what it feels like to be with my partner. Because when I'm home by myself, I'm hardly ever bored. I just feel so like I just feel like free. I'm just like,
We're
like I feel like
vibing.
I'm
We're
vibing.
shaking
Like I don't feel like
ass at
anybody's
times.
observing me, right? You know what I mean? Dancing. Like I feel good. Like sometimes I'm just sprawled out on the couch. Like,
Exactly.
but there's no judgment in
Yeah.
what I'm doing when I'm doing it. There's no fear of people, anybody observing me
Yeah.
in any sort of light. I just feel free.
Exactly. And that's exactly how it is. And I love that you mentioned again that it feels like home. And that's because I chose the acronym HOME to represent the manifestation framework that I literally teach in Manifesting Color, right? The reason for that is because it's to, excuse the, it's like to really drive home the point that your true love, that soulmate compatibility love, does feel like home. And of course, the H stands for healing your origin story. The O is owning your identity. M is manifesting from authenticity. And E is expanding your legacy. Yes, that all stands for something, but the choice of it living in home is very intentional on my part.
Before we get into the manifestation, because we're definitely going to talk about that, I want to talk about
Love it.
boundaries and embodiment. Okay. And then I want to get into the
Mm,
woo woo of manifestation. Okay. Let's really set this a solid foundation here. Okay, Shri Shri. So you speak about women over functioning in relationships. What does that actually look like in real life?
being the one to initiate all the planning for dates, initiating most conversations, explaining yourself excessively to avoid being misunderstood. This also shows up at work. And so if you're having this problem at work, you're probably having this problem in your love life too. It's like managing other people's emotions. Have you ever become your manager's unpaid therapist? Because you're probably doing that for the person you're with. And I wonder, is the person that you're dating actually even giving you the space for you to safely process your emotions? Or is it always you helping others process theirs? That is how overfunctioning shows up in the workplace and at home. Ignoring your own discomfort because maintaining the peace feels really important. That is another way it shows up, and trying to optimize the relationship instead of experiencing it. And that is one that I honestly will say I struggle with that one even today. I know that I still have that issue. It's not that you meet your soulmate and all your pre-existing problems just disappear. It's that you do the work with love to manage them because you know that the situation is so nourishing.
Now, what changes when we stop trying to earn love and start holding our own standards?
You get comfortable leaning back and not having to fill every gap. You get comfortable leaning back to see if a person actually leans forward to show up for you instead of running to try and manage everything. You're very confident and you trust yourself to the point where you know that if a person is not meeting you, it's perfectly fine and safe to walk away. And it's never leaving you with this feeling of spiraling that it's never going to happen for you. you walk away being like, oh, that's not right for me because this just taught me more about what my soulmate's actually going to be like. So thank you so much for that. That, when you're getting in that part where you're like, actually, I'm excited that this didn't work out because I'm one step closer, that feeling, that's that's what changes when you stop trying to earn love and you hold your own standard with confidence.
To me, what I'm hearing is like you're able to release control and also know that you're worthy no matter what.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about like this embodiment
Mhm.
shift, how does that like change the way we show up in dating and in partnerships?
You become forthcoming more early on in the relationships, but not in a way that is aggressive and puts people off. What do I mean by that? You can state, like, this is what I need to be happy, or this, I require this. So can we do that? You say it in a way that doesn't like, you better be doing it. That's not the energy here, right? It's like, yeah, I need this. Are you able to do this? That changes. You respond instead of reacting. It's not like we aren't going to have reactions. Like I said, the right person showing up doesn't mean all your pre-existing insecurities go away. What happens is they come up and it's an opportunity for you to gently be like, "Oh, I need a second. I need to talk to this part of me before I send a text back." You take the time to process and respond instead of reacting right off the bat. And you do become selective without becoming cold and rigid. When I healed my fearful avoidant attachment style and I finally stopped looking for if the other person's liking me and actually worried about if I actually liked them, I was in conversation with somebody perfectly decent, good person, great convo, and I found that we didn't have enough cultural touch points in common. Like he didn't watch Disney movies growing up. I really did. He didn't have anything to do like with Harry Potter, and that was a huge part of like my childhood. We didn't have things that we could chat about. I found as like fun. And then when I asked about the MCU, he also didn't watch the MCU, and I was like, that's it. Like I'm out.
That's it. I'm
I'm
done.
done. Like
That's
I don't know,
it.
Black Panther is one of my like comfort movies. If you can't get that,
Right. Yeah.
then I took a second and I took a couple of days. And then when I got back to them, I was like, hey, yeah, I just don't think that there's a vibe here beyond friendship. And I really hope you find this. This was actually a matchmaker that had found this connection for me at that time. And I was like, yeah, great chatting. I don't know that there's a vibe beyond friendship here on my part. How do you feel? Okay, let's move on, you know? I wasn't like judgmental. I didn't ghost because I could have in a matchmaking process. You can choose to end things through your matchmaker, right? But no, I always declare my intentions to the universe through my actions. And so when you say that is not for me, then the universe is like, okay, I must find someone for you that likes the MCU.
Yeah. We got to watch that Wakanda Forever,
Hell yeah.
baby. Yes. So let's get into the manifestation side of all of this. Now, you say that manifesting a partner is different from manifesting something like a job or a house. What makes romantic manifestation so different?
The main difference is that something like a job or a house is concrete. So a house is always going to have 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, for example. A job is going to be at that particular institution. It's going to have certain roles and responsibilities and is going to have certain requirements, maybe through education or something. That's fixed, right?
Mhm.
The thing about human beings is that there's parts that are fixed and there's parts that are variable. Humans are dynamic. Humans grow and humans change. And actually, how I perceive, for example, marriage, because that is literally taking vows, you have to be comfortable knowing that you're taking a gamble on your future self. Like, is every future version of me going to choose every future version of my partner? I'm taking a bet that every future of me will choose every future version of this person. And I think that's always the gamble. That's actually what it boils down to. And I think anybody who is married or has been married listening to this will understand that aha moment right now because everybody knows it. We just can't express it. And but now it's like kind of clear. You're gambling on your future self in a way. And that also means that the methods in which you then attract that outcome, it's not as simple as a list that you can check things off on. It's less about getting that someone and more about becoming the version of you that can receive that kind of love. And so that's where the work is about embodiment. It's about getting into the habit and normalizing the life around you to normalize your desire and the certainty that your soulmate's around the corner. And that's why it's so different. That creating that sphere around you becomes doubly, triply important when manifesting romantic love.
What does it actually look like for us when we become energetically available for aligned love?
When you see somebody post about getting engaged, your immediate thought is, oh my gosh, that's about to be me. You're not preoccupied with the past connections. When the thought comes and goes, you perceive it more as, oh yeah, that happened. And I also know so much from that experience. And my soulmate is nothing like that, right? Your life actually has space when you become energetically available. And what I mean by that is literally look at your calendar. Is there room in it? Or are you constantly budgeting every single minute of every single day to do something? If you are, there's no space for dates. There's no space for somebody to meaningfully come in and stay. So that's what I mean when I say your life has space for someone to enter it. And you're open but not attached at every single point to whomever you meet. You're open, you're excited, and you also know that everything that is happening is either your manifestation or it's something that's leading you to your manifestation. It's a new way of thinking where there's no losing. You're never losing if you're always thinking in that way, right? Everything happens for me, not to me. Those are the thoughts inside somebody who becomes energetically available. If I really want something and it doesn't come through, that's because something even better is around the corner. That those are the thoughts of someone who has become energetically aligned.
And how do we go from chasing connection to naturally attracting the kind of relationship that we want?
Are you talking about the part where you're still more concerned about the other person liking
For
you?
me, what that means is how do we get away from like, oh, I gotta get on all the apps. I gotta like go to the bars. I gotta chase this like this connection to this phantom man that I don't even know if he exists to naturally just like, I'm just gonna naturally attract the kind of relationship, like your meet cute story. You know what I mean? Like I have this dream that I would love to meet my partner out and about. Like I don't want to meet him on an app. I want to have a meet cute story where like we stumble across each other, you know, somewhere like in the Marshalls aisle or something. You know what I mean? Like shopping.
I know. And you know what's really funny? I had that too. And as long as I really wanted to control, and I didn't let my parents arrange, because I'm Indian and arranged marriage happens and stuff, I didn't like the idea of somebody else. So, like, I stuck to the apps because to me, an app was better than being arranged because I had this idea and I had this block. And then it was literally 1.5 months after I signed on to that matchmaking program that existed in North America for South Asians. And I was like committed to that process. That's when I go to a wedding and I meet him. I think everybody has a different thing, but I think what it was is I pushed past that last layer of ego. And I know that's not the answer everyone wants to hear.
It doesn't matter. It's like, what is the truth? You know what I mean? That's what we need to hear.
Yeah, the truth is trying to control how something comes to you will push it. And you know, this has shown up in so many different ways. It even showed up at our wedding. I had this vision for this particular entrance in my first outfit with this like this floral umbrella thing. And then the second entrance was gonna have like a bunch of bubble guns for my second outfit. And it was the people were searching helter skelter for this umbrella. Some miscommunication happened, and it was literally the morning of my wedding. And I was like, I was getting really stressed. And then I was like, you know what, guys? It's fine. What we need is more time. What we'll do is we'll do the bubble entrance first, And then that'll give people time to search back there. And then the second one, I'm sure we'll find the flower umbrella, it'll be fine. I said that, and 60 seconds later, someone comes around being like, "We found it, let's go." So it's always the moments where I'm like, I was really attached, right? Like in that I really was attached to this vision of exactly it happening how I wanted it to. And then when I was like, okay, fine, I surrender to the fact that the universe has a different plan here. And that's when it worked out. And whether it's about a floral umbrella entrance or whether it's about the love of your life, where is it that you are forcing control or trying to be like it has to happen this way? And that doesn't mean you stop going outside, right? It's about remaining open. If your boundaries are actually that I am done, like dating apps do not feel good in my body, and you know that for a fact, that's fine, right? But it's that if you are attached to an idea of it's going to happen in this particular way, when you remove that and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna live and be open and try things. And if somebody says they have a friend that's single, I might say yes to that. And maybe, if I'm set up by somebody, it's fine. If I meet somebody on a Reddit forum, that's fine. If I meet someone on Threads, that's fine. That kind of a thing. Just allowing it to come in any way. And so keeping the doors open, right? Without being afraid. That's the energy that brings it in.
Now, you talked to us a little bit about your program Home. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so home is the manifestation framework that I teach at Manifest in Color. And I have a program called 90 Days to Feels Like Home, which is essentially 90 days to manifesting that love that feels like home for you. The way that it works is it's based on the acronym of HOME. The H stands for Heal Your Origin Story. So this is where we find where the block started, where the pushing away of secure love may have started as a pattern. It could be all the way in your childhood, it could have been in your 20s. It's different for different people, but we work on that in this step. We also do ancestral healing in this step because sometimes we're carrying out patterns that our grandmas and our grandpas, our great grandparents might have been passing on. So we look at it holistically, essentially, as what is that origin story? Earlier, we even spoke about was that a helpful narrative? Why did I say that? Because we look at the literal origin story narrative that you are telling yourself about your life and seeing how it is either helping or hurting your chances of getting what you want. And we shift that using subconscious programming and ancestral healing work. The O stands for owning your identity. And this is where we unmask you because feels like home love is where you can literally be at home. And what are you doing at home? You're not masking, you're not performing. You are sprawling on the couch as you described, right? You are being fully yourself. How can you be fully yourself with another person present? By removing the shame that comes from those parts of you. So this is our shadow work component. A lot of the work involves compassion towards the parts of you that you've rejected. So you can fully step in to this identity of the woman that receives feels like home love. And then the M stands for manifesting from authenticity. And so we figure out your true authentic values that will act as a spiritual filter. So when you are out and about in the dating world and you're not sure if someone's right for you or wrong, that actually won't even come up as a question because you now have this spiritual filter, your values that you wish to lead your life with, that allows for you to be so confident in the decisions you're making, whether this relationship continues or not, or if there's a, if you're going to try again, whatever that is, the confidence comes back when you have become very clear about what your authentic values are. And then E is about expanding your legacy. What are the other parts of your life that this identity is going to yield results in? Because, like I said, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So now that you're stepped into this identity, we also look at the future vision. We use hypnosis to connect with your future self. And like that timeline thing that I was talking about, it it's a way to really understand how your life is about to expand and grow and blossom from this point onwards. And also, it's about helping become that person that you always needed. And now you're able to maybe share that in ways with other people in the world. And so that's what the home framework really gets across.
Today, this has been such an amazing conversation, and it's expanded me in ways that I did not realize that it would. I mean, I knew it was going to, but like it's just been
Mm.
so healing. If there's one truth that you hope all of us take away about aligned love and relationships, what would it be?
The one truth is that if you have always known at the bottom of your heart that you want that soul affirming love, it exists for you. It definitely exists for you. And the part two of that truth is what I said earlier about time travel therapy, which is essentially when you send love to all the parts of you from your past, your future self sends you assist in the present. So the only thing you really need to do is declare that you will only be experiencing aligned love and aligned relationships. And your future self will send you assists to ensure your life pans out that way. So declare it. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
That was so profound and such a wonderful way to close us out with just inspired wisdom. Thank you so much for being here. You're so amazing. Sri, where can people find you if you'd like to be found?
You can follow me at Manifest in Color on Instagram. It is spelled with an O-U-R because I'm Canadian. And probably the best way is I can share my mail list sign up and it'll be in the show notes maybe.
Hmm.
That'll be easy for you folks to find me and just be in the loop for any offers or any exciting things that I have to share with you.
Well, Sridaya, do you feel complete?
I feel complete, girl.
Wonderful. So, y'all, what really stood out to me in this conversation is this: aligned love isn't something we earn, it's something we become available for. And that shift doesn't come from doing more, it comes from coming back into ourselves, trusting our bodies, and holding our standards without abandoning who we are. Because when we create safety within ourselves first, love stops feeling urgent or confusing and starts feeling steady, grounded, and real. And y'all, that is exactly the kind of relationship I'm calling in for myself. If you're ready to go deeper into this work, Sridaya is offering listeners 10% off her coaching program with the code TheHangedWoman. Her work helps you release the patterns that keep you stuck in those almost relationships so you can attract love that actually feels aligned and secure. And in our next episode, we're closing out this arc with something really powerful. Because once you start coming back to yourself, the next question becomes, what happens when you still can't let go? We're diving into energetic attachment, parts work, and the truth of release with Juanita LePage. It's such an amazing conversation, and will have you looking at breakups in a whole new way. I'm Julienne Irons, and this is Perspective Shifts for Healing with the Hanged Woman. If this episode resonated, please like, share, and follow so we can keep the conversation going. Until next time, hang in there, Seeker.